So like there's the narrow, small female head, and there's the wide, large male head. And I have, an inventory of these heads around. My children used to think it was creepy when they'd look at my office and there's just heads everywhere.
Hi everybody, welcome to Go HandsFree. This is episode 3, and today, very excited, we are going behind the scenes at RealWear. James, tell us more.
Hey, well, we're going to do something a bit different today. We're going to talk about hardware, which is a completely strange experience for me.
That's a very strange experience for you. You are Captain Software, but
Yeah,
we
I
do work
certainly
for a company that produces hardware, although we're a technology platform. But yeah, so what's happening today? Tell me more about it.
So we interviewed Noah. He's our lead hardware designer. Noah, I mean, as you know, George, you know Noah. He's played a really key role in shaping the devices. He's really helped push the boundaries of wearable technology forward. So we talked to him about some of the decisions that he's made, the complex challenges that he's faced, and he's even got a couple of prototypes that didn't quite make the cut. So yeah, let's get straight into it. First thing we did is we asked Noah what he was up to before he joined RealWear.
Cool. Let's go find out.
Okay, well, I went to college as an industrial designer, kind of the more art side of the engineering, but I was really good at being able to do a lot of the mechanical things too. And I was interested in technology, of course, like a lot of people are. And I joined a company called Joby during the beginning of the smartphone era. So it was around 2009, the iPhone 2 or 3, I guess there wasn't a 2, right? The iPhone 3 was out. And we were working on ways to use the camera on an iPhone for hands-free use. So I actually have one back here. You may have seen these out in the wild before. These are the Gorilla Pods. I wasn't the original designer of this. The inventor is now making flying cars. You can look up Joby and Joby Aviation, everything like that. They're making a flying taxi. But originally, he was at Stanford and he designed this flexible tripod, and it kind of took over. And back in the day, we actually had a app that was more downloaded than Instagram. And that's our claim to fame. It was only because Instagram wasn't really taking off yet. And the thing that our app did, which is hilarious, is it was able to do a interval photo. So 3-second delay, 5-second delay, because there was literally no features in the iPhone camera back then. And so you had to download an app to even just put the photo on something and run back with your family and take a photo. And so I worked there for 10 years working on the evolution of the iPad. We bought the first iPad and we were like, what the heck is this thing? No one's going to, and the name is ridiculous and no one's going to use this. And we got to evolve with smartphones, and we became a kind of standard in all Apple stores around the world with our different phone mounts. And after 10 years of that, we went through a few acquisitions, and I was ready to try something different. And I actually had seen this RealWear device at CES years ago, and it was very interesting. And I was like, wow, I'd love to work on something like this, because it's still using a camera and it's hands-free, and it's kind of the evolution, because during my time with Joby, the GoPro took off, and we made a lot of GoPro products, but it never really did what people were hoping it could do. You put it on your head and it's completely wide angle. You can't see where you're looking, and there's no way to connect it to any software. So it was really interesting to see this RealWear company, and it actually was in a place where I grew up in Vancouver, Washington, around the Portland metro area. And so I was like, hey, I'm going to throw my hat in the ring, see if I get this job. And Stephen Pombo, who's now a good friend of mine, is the original inventor of RealWear. He patented the way that the device works before RealWear when he was working with our CEO, Chris Parkinson, at their previous company. And he liked me, and the rest is kind of history.
That's awesome. And you talk about that kind of that early inception of RealWear. Like I always hear stories and rumblings about some kind of link with Star Wars. In fact, I have done some preparation for this because I just wanted to put this picture up here and show you
Okay.
so you can talk about it and I guess give us some context on it. Like is this true? How true is it? How like tenuous is this link, right?
Yes, I remember the slide.
Yeah.
You've seen this, right? Everybody's seen
Yeah.
this, but like, can you give me some more detail on it?
Yeah, so actually the 2013 model is the one that I saw at CES, and it was probably Steven and Chris walking around with it, and I was like, wow, that's so cool, but I don't know if I'd ever be able to do, it seemed like a medical device at the time. I didn't, I wasn't sure what it was, but yeah, a long time ago, really a long time ago, uh, Return of the Jedi was being produced, and Stephen Pombo, who's the original designer of the RealWear device, was working with a guy at ILM, Industrial Light and Magic, the company that made all the models of the AT-AT walkers and everything. And he was a model maker back then, and he was able to make the best models. He made a bunch of models for Apple, like early prototypes of computers and things. And he was working with this guy at ILM on the Boba Fett costume, and he was enthralled by this viewfinder that flips down. And a lot of people, even during Return of the Jedi, didn't really realize what that thing sticking up was. That's actually a flip down viewfinder. And I think in Mandalorian, people kind of figured that out because they use it a lot more in that. But it is the dream. It's a very thin kind of display in front of your eye. And after he worked on that project a little bit, just making models, he eventually wanted to keep. He thought that this could be not just sci-fi; this could be real. And he, put many years into this boom arm, and you can see how it evolves, how technology's gotten better. But the boom arm itself, since about 2011, is very similar than it is today.
Got it. Super interesting. Yeah, I haven't heard it told so eloquently. So thanks for sharing that. I guess the other side to this world, and I'll stop sharing this screening, is your obsession with PPE.
Yeah.
Every time I join a call with you're like you're wearing some crazy helmet or some welding thing,
Yeah.
some crazy medical device. Like, tell me about your relationship with PPE, and is this just Noah at work? Like, does PPE go further?
He's very health and safety conscious, is Noah.
Yeah, you can tell by the resin printer behind me. It's very clean in here. Not really. But human factors when you're putting a display near your eye is the only thing that's important. And I like to say, if we can get the right PPE, or it depends on what use case it is. If it's an industrial use case, you're going to need more PPE. But you need to make it comfortable for that person. And it may not be comfortable for their right-hand man because they have a different shaped head, their eyes are further apart, or whatever it is. What I like to think is, if we can get the PPE right, if we can get the head mounting right, then the device disappears. And then it's up to James Woodall. And I don't have anything to do because software is there, you're speaking to it, and you can't tell it's on your head. It doesn't matter. So it's very important because there's so many different health factors when it comes to eye health and which eye is dominant. We can talk about the symmetricality and how to flip the display so it can work for left eye dominant people. But yeah, I kind of nerd out on all of these different ways to mount it, because if you can't get it on your head, you're not going to use it.
Got it. And I remember you showed me some pictures of different people's head sizes, and I was pretty blown away by how varied that is, particularly if you look at it from a global perspective.
It's pretty amazing. Yeah, there's a lot of different shaped people out there, and behind me I have a couple different head shapes. So like there's the narrow, small female head, and there's the wide, large male head, and I have inventory of these heads around. My children used to think it was creepy, and they'd look in my office and there's just heads everywhere. But they've gotten used to it, I think.
So what's harder to design for then? Is it for the smaller head, the larger head, or is there like another factor altogether? It's not just head size. I mean, what goes
Well,
into
yeah,
this?
I think 0 to 5 and 95 to 100 percentile heads are the hardest. It's both directions because you can make something perfect for 80% of the people, but there's always going to be outliers where their heads are even smaller or even larger than even the percentile range that we see in all of these kind of health studies. So I wouldn't say large or small is harder or easier. It's just once you get to those outliers, it gets pretty hard. But we can get it on anyone because we have these custom mounts. And one of the things that I do, like you can see, there's a couple different head mounts up here, different helmets. Different customers are using helmets, and they're not going to switch their helmets and their whole facility because they want to wear our device. And so uh, most hard hats have these unique mounting points on the sides for either earmuffs or face shields or other accessories, and we're able to mount to those primarily using these custom clips that I can design for any helmet. And it turns out the more we spread our devices around the world, the more helmets there are, because different jurisdictions, different countries have different regulations. Sometimes they have to be made in that country. Sometimes they haven't approved certain helmets, or sometimes they want to, have whatever helmet they want, and we want to be able to mount to whatever they have. So we have a unique ability to mount to various helmets. And whenever we have a customer that has new helmets that I haven't seen before, I can get new clips custom made pretty quickly.
Do you feel like, I mean, given the amount of time that we've done this, we've seen all there is to see in terms of helmets and clips, or do you feel like we've just really barely scratched the surface?
I feel like we've done most of the helmets. However, there's more helmet companies. I got a call yesterday. There's a new helmet company that's making new helmets that are slightly different, and their accessory points are slightly different because they want to sell the helmet, and then they want to sell their earmuffs that mount to the helmet. They want to sell their PPE that goes on the helmet, and they don't want other people using like a MSA, for example, earmuff on a JSP helmet. And so they aren't compatible at all. So it's kind of maddening at the same time. But it's easy enough to do custom ones. We could make some kind of universal solutions. We have some, but usually universal is not optimized specifically for that helmet. And so we take the extra effort to, if they're going to use our device, we're going to set them up with efficient, lightweight mounting options.
Okay, so we've talked obviously quite a bit about PPE helmets, etc., but that's just scratching the surface of what you do. I mean, if we think about your role in general, is there a usual process from, let's say, conception to production, or?
Yeah, I mean, it usually starts with someone's crazy idea. I mean, that's it. It can come from anywhere. I tell the company, like, if you're a financial person and you're like, hey, I think it'd be cool if this had this feature, bring it to me. And we look into it. I think a lot of the time it comes from our CEO, Chris Parkinson, or looking at studies of other products and successes around the world. Generally, it starts out with lots of hand sketching, lots of just ideation on paper. But then quickly, nowadays, it's so easy to go into 3D printing to get the actual size and scale of things. And when it's something that's on your head, you really need to make sure, all the positioning works for all these different head sizes. So for these head-mounted displays, we get into CAD pretty quickly. There's lots of 3D printers in my house and at the office that we can use. So we go from like the low-end FDM printing to resin printing to SLS, selective laser sintering, for usable prototype parts, and then CNC machining to make plastics of the right type, to see how the housings are connecting properly and waterproofing and all that, and then going to
is there anything
tooling.
you can you show us anything like, I guess behind the scenes stuff? You mentioned like sketching, or have you got any prototypes that maybe, things that never made it, like, just
Yeah, I
some
mean, I
interesting
have,
visual references?
yeah. Well, so I have a couple different displays here I could show. Like uh, this is our current boom arm, for the 520,
Okay.
and it has a display in there. This one works. I took it apart, but it's back together pretty much. So some of the other earlier ones here, you can see this one. I just put it on the same arm itself, but this is kind of just a really quick. You can see the contour is not what I would want for a final product, but we're trying to just shrink wrap around a potential optic that we would possibly want to use, how big it could be. There's a lot of technicalities of eye relief and field of view and everything, that you have to do more on the computer, but just different sizing. Is this going to be too big? Does this stick out too far?
Who decides that though? Like, where these look really fascinating, but what's the point of which you decide? Oh wow, there are pretty distinct differences. What's the point of which you decide that this is something that we like and we want to take forward, and
There's a
this is
lot of
too
different,
big, too small?
yeah, there's a lot of different reasons. I mean, I think making it small enough so it doesn't occlude your vision, although it is below the eyesight, on our device. The larger it gets, the more close it gets to your nose. You don't want it bumping against your nose. Depending on what kind of optics we can design, um, that's how big the housing has to be, and we have to find a nice middle ground between a large display that makes you not have any eye strain without making it too heavy and large. So I actually have, the optic that's inside of the 520 here. It looks like it's turned on, but it's actually just the light flowing through it. There would be a display, tiny display, right on this side, and this has to be housed inside of the waterproof housing, and so it gets a little larger than that. But we found this to be a very nice small size, and we get the 720p resolution that we like, and the eye relief we like, and so it's all just it's real hardware, and you have to figure out what's acceptable to the customer versus what is available at the price that is going to allow people to purchase it. So there's a lot of different factors, I guess.
What's your working environment like, Noah? Like, I sit at a desk most of the time. We obviously go visit customers. Like, I'm conscious your working environment's very different, right? You're often traveling around the world, going to manufacturing sites. You're in
Yeah,
labs. I've seen your like crazy acoustic chamber for audio testing and things. Like,
there's
I
a
mean,
lot of. I get to move around because I am near the headquarters, so I get to go in. There's always prototypes being shipped there that I get to review, different hard hats that I get to review and make new clips for certain customers. This is my home office where I have four 3D printers where I'm able to do a lot of prototyping. But in order to show it to everyone else, I am going to China a lot. Specifically, that's where we do a lot of the production, some of the prototyping as well. So it's sometimes a lot faster for me to go there and look at a prototype and then even getting it shipped here, shipped back, trying to explain what I want differently. So I'm all over the place, but mostly it's sitting in front of a computer, sadly, like most other people doing a lot of 3D modeling.
okay, perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I use this more than a lot of people. And I think for people like me that are designing products and showing people prototypes all the time, just being able to put this on and use both hands and show very intricate things and use the needle point to, scratch a surface to show people the hardness, like all of these little things. Like, I don't know how I would do this if I, have a different job doing the same similar thing. Like, I'm purchasing one of these because there's no other way to do this. So I've
Yeah,
kind of
I can assure everybody listening to this, we didn't ask Noah to plug that use case at all. That was
my
completely
favorite
authentic.
use case is just having it on all the time when I'm working on a car, and if I drop some screw and don't realize what happened, I can go back 20 minutes and just see where I went. Like that's that's a killer app as well. But yeah, thanks for calling. Nice talking to you guys.
No worries. James is going to go off and build that app now. I can see it in his eyes already. He wants to go and build
I
it.
want the Lego app. I want to be looking in a big bin of Lego and have this one 3-dot piece found and illuminated on the display. If you could get that done for me, that'd be great.
Maybe that's what we should do on the pod. We should start setting developer challenges, right? Who can come back to us with that application? Help Noah build his Lego models faster.
Yeah. I don't want to keep finding it for my son. Like, if it could just be like, it's there, that would be great.
That would be useful. Save some time on the weekend. Okay, perfect. Thanks so much, Noah. James, thanks as well. And hope everybody enjoyed it. Speak to you all soon.